My name is Liam Cody. I'm the Orchard Gardens assistant this year, and today we're planting tomatoes, eggplant, and tomatillos. So today we're filling channel flats. I've already labeled all the tomatoes and eggplants that we're going to be doing today. So the next step is basically creating like the bed where the plants are going to lie. I just use a Sharpie marker and I'm going to just place it in the channels and just press down really gently. Okay, so now that I've created all of these channels, we're going to start putting seeds into the channels. Now that everything's seeded, I'm going to just talk a little bit about how we cover our tomatoes. It's really important with this, I think, to have a pretty nicely sifted soil that you're putting on top, and so this doesn't have a lot of like material in it or big chunks that are going to like basically block the seeds from getting up out of the soil. It's better to go a little lighter than like overdoing it, because you can always add a little more to it. As if you see seeds popping up, I'm just going to take a small amount and just kind of come down the row. Now that I've got them all covered, I basically just do a little bit of fine tuning so that when you firm them in, which is what I'm about to do, you have good soil to seed contact. That's a really important part of seed germination and making sure that you get as many of these seeds to germinate as possible. Since these are in channels, which fit with this marker pretty nicely, I'm just going to use that to just press them in really gently. So now I'm going to water the tomatoes in. When we're doing this, we use a mist setting on our hose to ensure that we're not blasting the seeds. You want to think about where your seed is planted. So really for these, I only need to get like the top, I don't know, like 1/4 inch wet. So how many days until seeds emerge? It really depends on the conditions that you have. In our environment, in like really good conditions where we have lots of sun coming in through the greenhouse, that would be like 7 days. But with the really cloudy weather, I mean, it could be as much as like 12 days. For those first 7 to 12 days or whatever, you're gonna want to be watering to the depth of basically that first 1/4 inch or so. You'd like it to be sort of this like Goldilocks middle ground where things are getting they're getting wet, but they're not staying like waterlogged. So why plant into these channels as opposed to just planting straight into like a 4-inch pot like this? If you are just doing a handful of plants, say you're doing 6 or 10 plants, something like that, you could plant into a pot like this, or you could plant into like a smaller cell or something. The most important thing though is that you think about the depth and think about that cover when you're planting them. So in a home garden sense, you might not have channels exactly like this to plant into, and that's not really a big deal. We use them because we're planting such a volume of seeds that at this stage it's really important for us to have as little greenhouse space taken up by these as possible. Some of the factors that make our tomatoes successful are our abilities to control light, heat, and humidity. So just in this space right now, we have some growing lights that we use to boost our tomatoes in the early season when we have a lot of just like cloudiness and in and out sun. Another is having these heat mats, which all of our tomatoes are set on. The heat mats are really, really important for germination especially, and are just bringing up that soil temperature to create like the perfect environment for tomatoes. Then the other thing we have going on in here is we have these fans, and the fans are designed to help move air around and ensure that we don't have a really humid, kind of like swampy environment where funguses and other bacterial stuff can form on the plants and inhibit them from growing successfully. So this tray that we're looking at has peppers in it, so they're not tomatoes obviously, but they do have some similar growing habits, and we grow them in the same manner in our greenhouse. As you can see, these ones haven't germinated, these have just started to pop up above the soil, and these ones are starting to kind of establish themselves. Now, When these plants come up, they start out with these leaves that are not their true leaves, they're their sort of first growth, and they're called cotyledons. Once the tomatoes develop their true leaves, those are going to emerge above these cotyledons, and we wait until those true leaves have sort of fully unfurled and grown a bit before we transplant them into the 4-inch pots that we use for growing.